We live in a world with constant stimulation and endless sensory experiences. So imagine what it must feel like if every sound, touch, smell became amplified off the charts. You'd be not only on edge, but entirely overwhelmed. This is what it feels like for a child or a person that struggles with sensory overload. And it's exactly why your kids are having constant meltdowns, those uncontrollable tantrums, anxiety that doesn't go away when you go to the grocery store or a busy restaurant, or even just trying to make it through a day at school. So today, we're not just talking about what sensory overload is, we're talking about the root cause of sensory overload. And additionally, what tips and strategies you can use to help your child calm their neurological storm and have more good days. We want to have more good days than bad when it comes to helping your child's sensory processing challenges. So if you're currently in OT and speech and you're doing sensory play and you've got tons of other modifications and life changes to help your child calm their sensory overload and improve their day-to-day life and understand what's going on internally better, but you're either hitting a plateau or just a flat brick wall, this is for you. I'd like to share with you a story about a little boy named Joey. Joey was stuck in a sensory processing storm. On one hand, he was fearless. He would jump off anything. He was ready to go as fast as possible. And on the other hand, he really had no sense of pain whatsoever. So it's a scary combination for his parents who are trying to protect him from getting himself hurt. One day, he came up to mom and dad at the playground, and his hands and arms were covered in blood from falling off the merry-go-round, going as fast as possible, and landing in a bunch of stones. Now, most times, a child in this situation would be upset because they were hurt. Not Joey. Joey was frustrated that his hands were wet. They were covered in blood, and he really didn't like the sensation. He wasn't crying because of pain. He was overwhelmed and frustrated because of that wet feeling on his hands. Talking to mom and dad, this started early on. When Joey was a baby, he didn't like light touch. That soft stroke caress up your baby's back that you do when you're holding them and snuggling them close, it wasn't for him. In other senses, he also had challenges with. He didn't really respond to pain, and he had a hard time understanding the signals that his body was telling him when it was time to go to the bathroom. Now, his parents did an incredible job at trying to figure out the cues to get this boy potty trained, but by preschool age, he still wasn't there. Mom picked up on some of our social media and immediately put the connection together. When we're talking about neurologically focused pediatric chiropractic and understanding the way that the sensory system works, she said, sounds like there's something there. Now, the cool thing when we're looking at this type of chiropractic care, I tell everybody that we start with that the first things we're looking for are neurological soft signs. Those indicators that the nervous system is starting to wake up and to change. And those three things are eating, sleeping, and pooping. I'll let you guess which of those three we got with Joey, because a couple weeks into care, he turned to his mom and said, "Mom, I gotta go potty." And while this may not seem like a big thing to you, this was a huge thing to mom. The ability of Joey's brain to sense what was going on internally and come up with the action plan of saying, "I gotta go potty," and then making it to the toilet and doing so was a huge milestone that these parents were so excited about. But his improvement didn't stop there. Beyond figuring out the whole bathroom situation, Joey was happier, more relaxed, less stressed and on edge, and as a result was more regulated and interacted with others much better. Now, this is not an isolated situation. We see wildly awesome cases like this all the time, and it's because it really can be that simple sometimes. Breaking things down to having an understanding of what the nervous system's doing and helping it to function in the way that it's supposed to. Finding the things that are preventing it from doing so, and removing them. So what is sensory overload? Well, sensory overload is the state where your body is just being overwhelmed by sensory stimuli. It's coming in and the brain is just struggling to process and integrate everything that's coming into it, that barrage of sensory information. Therefore, it immediately defaults into stress on mode. We're going into fight or flight, that sympathetic part of the nervous system, and it's going to go into overdrive and that constant stress mode. These stimuli could be things like loud noises, crowded spaces, bright lights, strong smells, different food textures, seams or tags on their clothing, or even the material of the clothing itself, or something as simple as an unexpected touch that triggers an excessive sympathetic response, which leads to anxiety, irritability, tantrums, meltdowns, difficulty concentrating, which is why sensory processing disorder is the #1 root cause of ADHD, physical, emotional, behavioral stress, and more. We see these present as a daily life challenge when families are trying to do things together. When we have children that struggle with this sensory overwhelmingness, we have trouble going into stores, going into grocery stores, busy restaurants, or taking vacations to busy places. We want those vacations to be relaxing, and it can be really hard with a child who is sensory overloaded to go to a crowded, fun place. This can also rear its head in family get togethers, play dates, or even just day to day boring things like school and social functions. Now, in the short term, we see this challenge, but we also have to examine the long term too. When sensory overload and sensory challenges will limit a child's ability to socially engage, interact, and even concentrate or participate in school at the short term, that is not going to change on its own. It can really interfere with brain and neurological development and leave them at risk for ADHD, anxiety, depression, and other learning challenges later on in life. We see a lot of sensory overwhelm in children with sensory processing disorders, such as autism spectrum disorder, attention deficit hyperactive disorder, and sensory processing disorder. Now, parents are on the right track when they start to try to make changes to accommodate for their children so they don't have the sensory overload. And even though they may be switching to sensory friendly clothing and foods, providing sensory breaks and time to be calm, quiet environments, and avoiding loud and busy places and noises, the thing is, those can significantly limit the quality of life of the family as a whole. And while most families are recommended to see an OT or another interventionalist through an early program or school intervention, many parents find that neurologically focused pediatric chiropractic not only enhances the work that the OTs and the other specialists are doing, but it also makes a huge impact on the way that these children can handle sensory information coming in, process it correctly, and the most important thing, respond in line with how they should. We don't have little things becoming big things. The system works better. Our goal is to help rein in that sympathetic fight or flight, turned up to 11 out of 10 part of their nervous system, and help the parasympathetic part, that rest, relax, digest, sleep, do the normal functions of the body system, work better. And when we can enhance the ability of this part of the system to rest, relax, and regulate, then it allows that sensory overloaded child to come down a little bit, to level out, to handle things more accordingly. Many cases have shown that children struggling with sensory overload or sensory processing disorder have an irritated or underperforming vagus nerve and the parasympathetic part of their nervous system that rest, relax, regulate. It's not doing its job. It's lacking the appropriate tone and function to help that child stay calm and better regulated in noisy or busy, stressful environments. We use a really cool piece of technology in our office that can measure sensory processing or vagal tone and function, and it only takes 10 to 15 minutes to get through the entire examination. This helps families firsthand visualize and see their child's sensory overload challenges. And the really cool part is it helps us to come up with a customized care plan specific to the child to help address the root cause of what's going on and help their nervous system better calm and regulate when needed. This guy right here, that's our gas versus brake poster. Looks like this. We know that a child works really, really well when they're in a rest, relax, regulate, parasympathetic system functioning for the majority of the time. Now, that's the left side where we see the green bars. We know that we want our kids to be able to grow and to do all the things that they need to do. Now, just like your car, that brake pedal helps to slow and regulate and relax things down. But as we move across our graph, we get to the right side where we see the gas pedal. Now, this is that sympathetic stress stuck on part of our nervous system where we have our fight or flight response. And the big problem I see a lot is neither part of these systems are working very well. And it's our goal to help remove the interference, irritation, or subluxation, whatever you want to call it, so that this system can work in the right way. So we're not always in that stress stuck on mode, always on the right side. We're able to transition and our body can handle stresses in an appropriate way and then transition back into that parasympathetic, normal, regulate, rest, relax, sleep zone where kids need to be as they're growing. If you could imagine getting in your car, putting your foot on the brake, putting your foot on the gas at the same time, where you're going to go, you're probably going to go nowhere. And at best, you might get a real sick burnout, which if we talk about burnout, that's exactly what's happening to your kids' nervous systems. So while that might not be the prettiest way that we can describe it, it's essentially what's happening inside. So moms and dads, You deserve better options for helping your child's sensory overload and their sensory processing challenges. And it doesn't need to just be avoiding busy places or changing environments and trying to get your stressed out child to just take deep breaths and calm their brain and body on their own. I know you've been trying extremely hard with this and you're hitting a wall. There is more you can do. Hop over to our blog and read our most recent update on sensory processing disorder and sensory overload. It's relatively eye opening. It's a helpful thing to learn more about. You can also learn more about sensory processing disorder and what our insight scans do and measure, and how we can report them and look at them, and how we can use those as an objective measurement to track progress with your kiddos. The really cool thing about looking at objective measures and watching them change is when the things that we measure change, the things that you see, or subjective things, also change. So please, slap that like button, slap that share button, subscribe to this stuff. I'm here to help you. I'm here to help your kids. I can't wait to meet you. I'll see you soon. Take care.